So I'm going to talk to you about the university budgeting process and specifically what it means to finance the institution during the time of ambiguity and uncertainty, and then also talk about two of the things that kind of resonated with me that we read from the materials. I'm actually going to start in the reverse and talk about the two things that I guess resonated with me, and then get into what I thought it means about the managing the uncertain times and the budgeting process. I think the two biggest things that kind of stuck out with me was in the role of the budget manager as discussed by Barr and McClellan. It goes into the budget manager as the oversight for that department or unit's budgeting, making sure that things get paid, that they don't exceed their budgets. I think that's one of the roles that is kind of often overlooked, and the person that gets to take care of that kind of enormous duty doesn't always get the respect or the training that they may need to really do the best job. The ones who have been in the university system the longest and have done it enough are really good at it. Newer people may not be as good, but I think that role is terribly critical and important. The other thing that kind of resonated with me, and again, it's using economics to explain higher ed, is from Kretschevix, and it's the price elasticity of demand that was discussed on page 54. The whole idea that as prices go up, demand will decrease depending on the person and their ability to buy it, or their desire to have it regardless of price. I think we forget that sometimes with higher education. As public schools increase their prices, students are going to start to shop around. So if they can't afford to go to that public school, then they may end up going to a community college where they may get the exact same type of degree, just with a different name, and that may in the end not make a difference to them as far as what kind of job they get. So those are the two things that kind of resonated with me. So back to, what does it meant to manage the institution during ambiguity and uncertainty? When times are good, it's easy to create the budgets and to maintain things and to keep funding, the operations. It's when things are bad or start to deteriorate that you have a lot of problems. And it's having a process from your central organization that manages the financing of the university, the income and outlays that go out of it, that makes the biggest impact on how the university will operate. A couple of things that I liked out of the reading, especially out of the Barr and McClellan book, was on participation in the budgeting process. At our university, we have a input section from all the different colleges where they come up and say, hey, this is what we need, beyond the normal operating expenses for the people that they already have there. And they say, here's our priority list. And then all these priority lists get put together, and then the upper management goes through them, tries to figure out which ones are the most useful, most important to the success and mission of the university, and then we'll publish that budget. And it's a communication process, which was also talked about in the books. One of the things I kind of liked, but I've not really seen very well, was the providing incentives that McClellan and Barr talked about on page 59. It's the year-end spending that we always get. You go through the process of, you have your budget, you spend it wisely throughout the year, and at the end of the year, anything you have left, you can just spend, kind of willy-nilly. There is no true incentive to, let me give this back to the university so that we can budget and spend that on something else that might be more important. Do I really need 40 new computers or 30 new big laptops or screens or whatever? Or do I need to order 500 new toner cartridges? Can I put this money back into the university pool so that they can utilize it? Then there's also the forecasting expenses and revenue on page 97, which I think that's one of the biggest things that the budget office does. And in doing that, along with admissions and with financial aid and everything, they can kind of set the tone for how that budgeting process is going to be. So, the overall thing is that the budget office needs to be able to look at where the money is going to come from, what they expect it to be, what the needs are, and then work with not only the upper management but the departments and the organization in order to find out what their needs, so they can actually provide all of the elements that the students need, that the faculty need, that the staff need, in order to meet the goals and missions of the university. And one of the last things, there's actually two things, was the monitoring of the budget, which I think, especially for some younger budget managers, they don't do very well, where they sometimes will spend more than a category than they have, and that has to be fixed, obviously, and a lot of times it's very easy to fix, but it's that lack of monitoring. And the budget as a whole needs to be monitored. Where is everybody at in the total scheme of things? Which, as you break it up, especially if it's a decentralized budget where each department, each unit has their own budget, that becomes a little bit more difficult. One of the last things that it was, the authors McClellan and Barr talked about, budgeting for the downtimes as well. Making sure that you have a method in place so that if you don't have the same number of students, that you can continue to operate so that you're not, slashing, the budgets by 30%, 40%, or causing undue harm to the faculty, the staff, or the students in some ways where you're removing the opportunities that they have. So the financing institution, I think, is the whole process of creating a very strong budget vision of how you're going to prioritize things, how you're going to get input from everybody, how you're going to put that together in a budget that everybody can support and stand behind when there's good times and when there's bad, because that's when it's the most pressing, is when there's less money, when the state cuts funding. So for me, the financing institution is all about how we bring money in, how we spend it, how we plan for it, and how we bring everybody together to have some say in it, so that it's not just coming down from the president, this is what the budget is, we're done, and everybody has some type of opportunity to be a part of it and make a difference. So that's my take on that question. Thank you.